Welcome to our wealth building seminar with the Lee team. I'm Monique. This is Jim Lee and Josh McGinnis, and we'll let you hear a little bit more about them and their story. But today we want to just talk about building wealth in real estate. And so I'm here to interview these two guys who have had some experience and have some opportunity. And we've taken questions in. We appreciate your feedback and the things that you have asked for us to talk about, and we look forward to just getting into it. So the Lead Team's purpose is to help people actually find ways to get to next level living. We hope that every person that works with our team is better for having worked with our team than they would have been without. And so our vision is to not only find that right house for our home buyers, which we love, to maximize selling prices for our sellers, which we take very seriously, but also to help you all build wealth. So that's why we're talking about this today. So guys, would you just tell me, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I know you all are busy, have a lot going on, and I appreciate your care for clients of the Lead Team. So thank you. And thank you to Jordan for setting all of this up. You did an amazing job. Would you all just tell me a little bit about yourself? Maybe kind of to give context, how old you are now, how old you were when you first bought your property, ish. And also how you work with the Lead Team.
Sure.
Well, you go first. You're
Sure.
Jim Lee.
Well, I'm 25, and I'm kidding. So I'm Jim Lee, and I'm 42 now. And I bought my first property when I was 22. So it was a foreclosure. I bought it for $39,000. It was in St. Elmo, and used the Lead Team, which at the time was probably Monique's team, to purchase it and find it. And then also used the Lead Team to provide referrals for Monique's team at the time to who to renovate it. And so all in, probably over the course of ownership, we probably spent about $125,000 on renovating it. Still own that duplex, probably worth $550 today, and well rented, and we got great tenants in it, and it's just been a beautiful godsend. And it was just my first foray into real estate investing. So that's who I am, and that's my first investment.
So my name is Josh McGinnis, and I am in lending. So I do financing for people to buy properties. I have been with the Lead Team for, golly, I don't even know how many years, a long time. Really came in more as a friend first, and then on the lending side. My story is very different from Jim's. I am 45, which is not fair for us to be both in our 40s and be sitting next to you. But my story is, I started off very, very traditional, old school, did not understand real estate, the power and impact of real estate. So my first real estate purchase was my house, my home that my wife and I bought, and that would have been about 22 years ago. So I was in my early 20s when that happened, and it took me a long time before I really got into real estate investing.
When was the first one? I'm curious, do you remember?
4 years ago.
That's great. You've done a lot in 4 years.
Yeah, well, slow to the game of realizing the power of real estate, but it's like, I've got to do something because the stock market never quite did it for me. Which is part of what I want to talk about today, because that's where I've learned a lot of my tough lessons in readjusting.
Yeah, and I think your first investment was actually before that, because it was in some of our development that we do. So I think it was...
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry.
Yeah,
no, you're right.
Yeah.
I did do a lot of... I got into some development 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, I would say 6 years ago. Rental property and development through what I was doing. So yeah.
So Josh, what you took 15 years to learn, teach us now, so that our 20-somethings out there don't have a 15-year story like you. So what have you learned about, like, why real estate? How does real estate compare to other investments? What have you learned there?
So that's where I gotta get my notes out here. Over time, so I came in and I was very much a Dave Ramsey, Crown Financial kind of mentality of become debt free as soon as possible. We did that. I mean, we were extreme in that we didn't take a vacation. We didn't go out to eat, didn't go to movies, had no date nights, which I would not recommend anybody doing that. But you guys know my wife and myself, so we can get very extreme. And you know, we very quickly paid off our home, and then just started investing money, but investing money in the traditional ways. And I'm not against the traditional method of investing. However, here's what I looked up. The average stock market return historically over the last, I think it was 20, 25 years, is 8.91% annually. The S&P 500 is 6.66%. You got to take into account inflation, which is 3.8%. That brings the numbers down to 5.11 and 2.86. You can't make money at 2.86.
No.
And so I'm watching this stuff, and then I'm also seeing the fees go out for managing it. And I'm going, why is the only way this stuff is really growing by me just putting more and more money into it? And then I go, okay, well, I need to make some really speculative investments. And so, you know, Jim knows my pain stories there. Oh, let's invest in this medical device company. Maybe that's going to do something, you know? Oh, let's invest here, let's invest there. And I'm watching things like go boom or bust, but just end up being like flat. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Whereas now, when I start looking at real estate, like I'm actually analyzing a property for myself, a 19-unit apartment complex, and I stand to make about a 27% annual return on that within like that's a 5-year speculation. And so like, okay, which one is safer? And you know, I've seen the stock market tank 20%. But I don't see real estate do that. Now, 2008 is an exception, but that's like a one-time anomaly that I just have no concern with that happening again. And I could talk about that more than you probably care to hear. But so like the big thing that I've learned is if I want to grow wealth, I've got to do it in a way where it's secure against losses and it has the potential to actually grow, but grow substantially. And the big lesson to it is time. The longer you sit on those properties, the more you allow them to grow over time. That's where you see the best return.
So I'm just going to kind of piggyback on that, and I agree with everything you're saying. The reality is that when you invest in the stock market, and I probably have invested in almost everything that it is possible to invest in. I doubt that many people can name an investment I haven't tried.
Wait, have you done Bitcoin?
Yes, I have.
I didn't know about that.
Yes. So, no joke. I haven't, invested in almost anything you can name. So it doesn't matter what kind of private equity, you name it, I've done it. And so, some of my first investments actually, alongside with some real estate investments that I made, were Lucent and WorldCom. And if you look up Lucent and WorldCom right now, they were high-flying, high-riding, tech companies, and they now are non-existent. They're worth nothing. So those were total losses. And so the thing is right now, year to date, the S&P 500 is negative 19.6%. So you think, oh, well, I'll just hold on to my S&P 500 investment, and then maybe it'll grow back up. But the thing is when you invest in stocks, when you invest in private equity, you're basically investing in a business model or a technology or a trademark or a competitive advantage that may grow over time, it may erode over time, it may completely disappear over time. And when that happens, it's gone. It vanishes. It disappears. It doesn't recover. Lucent and WorldCom are not recovering their competitive advantages. Their technology is antiquated. It's not going to recover. It's gone. And so I've made many investments like that just vanished entirely or eroded and stagnated into virtually nothing. I will tell you the one thing that has never disappeared is the houses I bought. They're still there. And it's interesting because you all mentioned the down market. So we owned real estate through the down market. When it did probably drop, by close to 20% in some areas. And the thing is guess what? I didn't lose 20%. Why? Because I didn't sell those properties. And why would I sell my homes, my rental properties, when they're negative 20%? I now own them. So that duplex that we invested in, sure, it lost some value then, but guess what? I rode through that value loss. There's no riding through the value loss in some of these private equity or stock market investments because their competitive advantage may disappear and never come back. So that's what I learned from real estate. And then the other thing about real estate is it's just got multiple ways to buoy your investment. So, you have, with stocks, you basically have dividends or capital appreciation, right? And dividends are increasingly a thing of the past. You're looking at appreciation. Well, with real estate, you have appreciation. With real estate, you have the depreciation and tax advantages and deductions you can claim. If you haven't looked into cost segregation analysis for depreciation, you need to, because that is just a phenomenal asset to any real estate investor out there. You have the rental income that you can carve out, so you have cash flow coming in on that. And then you're not using your own money for the most part, you're using other people's money, and you're paying, and your tenant is paying down your note. So your principal is increasing as your debt decreases, rent is coming in, and also appreciation is occurring. So you have those, and you're getting tax depreciation advantages. So you really have kind of 4 streams through which you're making money in real estate that you don't have available to you through other investment opportunities. So.
The other thing with it is, you talk about the stock market being down 20%. That means next year it'd have to be up 25% just to be able to break even.
Just to break even.
Just to break even.
Just to break even.
Whereas real estate, you take the worst time we've had in our lifetime, in anybody's lifetimes, this is probably around right now. 2008, and it took, if you bought at the absolute peak of the market, it took 6.5 years for you to be back to normal on the value. And that was if you bought at the absolute worst time. And so that's why you said you didn't sell. Warren Buffett, when people asked him, how much money did you lose in 2008? He said, I didn't lose any money. I made money. Right. I made more money than almost any other time in my investing life, because I was able to acquire and buy, and I didn't have to sell.
And meanwhile, you're making rental income while all that's happening.
Yeah.
So the only thing that really changes is if you're updating your balance sheet value drops a little bit. But
so I think that's a really good point and helpful for us as some of our clients who are newer investors to understand the 4 streams of income. So another thing that a lot of people think about is this idea of active versus passive income. And so of those streams of income, could you go over those one more time and kind of say which of those are more active and which of those are more passive? Because it sounds like the more active would just be the rental income. And then those other 3 streams of income, which are very significant, are pretty passive.
Sure. So yeah, and I think by active versus passive, we're talking about my activity. We're not talking about how the IRS looks at it. So just want to differentiate that.
Right.
So yes, in terms of, depreciation is just something you pay your CPA to do for you. It just happens. The government allows you to do it. The appreciation just happens from holding on to property in a good area. In an area that isn't subject. There are some markets, that are very different. Some real estate markets are different than Chattanooga. Chattanooga is just a solid, fundamentally good market. It's not dependent on skiing or beachfront property. It's just a good market. So that is passive. And then the only thing that really takes any type of management would be your active, your management of the tenant relationships. But candidly, so you can go ahead and outsource that to a property manager, or these days, y'all, it is so easy. There's so many apps out there.
Easier than ever.
Oh, it's easier than ever to just kind of manage the rental property through your app and through text messaging, and the rental income just comes in. It used to be you had to go pick up the checks and deposit them. Now they just come in, wirelessly, automatically get deposited to your bank account. It's just phenomenal. So the number of hours you have to invest is just dropping significantly.